Some people have asked me to make a video about how I use watercolor paint, and I was already planning on doing that, and then last week a very kind lady from the US sent me this book, Painterly Days, and she sent me 2 other books as well as a thank you for all the videos that I make. I'm so grateful. I could never have thought that people would just send me beautiful books like this. Anyway, this is a book that other people already mentioned, Painterly Days, the Woodland watercolor book for adults. So I was thinking, why not try a little bit of watercolor painting in this book. I really want to test it, and it's a beautiful book, look, with a picture of the author. You can flip it open. There are some tutorial tips and tricks, a lovely color wheel. And over here, suggested materials, things that you could use. And then this is the actual book. With some background information of the drawings. And then these are the sketches. I already did some testing. It doesn't look so good, but it's just a testing page. So let's pick a page and see what we can do. I'm just flipping through now. Oh, there's a nice thing that this author did. All the drawings are in the book twice. Look, the heron and the hummingbird is also over here. So you can use one page for practicing and testing, and then the other page for the actual painting. That's very thoughtful. I've heard other artists already say that this light gray ink is very nice because it goes to the background completely once you add color. So you won't have thick black lines crossing in your drawing. Let's start with this one. Some leaves and some berries. Now there is something else that I would like to test, and that is this painting palette by Reeves. I already have a small one. I've been using this for years and it works pretty well, but I feel like it would be easier if the mixing areas were a little bit larger. So I decided to buy this Reeves painting palette. And in the Netherlands you can buy it for €4.45. So that is not very expensive. So let's open it. This is the palette. And I'm seeing this for the first time now. What I also like is these larger holes, because the holes in my smaller palette only can handle the tiniest of brushes, but I think the brushes I use most fit in here. Now I have only a limited palette of watercolor paint, and these are the colors that I have. And I really want to expand my palette the next couple of months, but for now I will put all these colors in the palette and then we'll start using it. Now if I compare this palette with the one I already use, what is clear immediately is that the areas where you put the paint in are a lot bigger. I don't think I really need it to be bigger, but let's just see how things work. The first color I'm going to add is Chinese white. I don't use it very often, but you never know. And I never clean my palettes, I just let the colors dry, the paint, and then with adding a little bit of water you can just use them again. This is lemon yellow hue, and I am using a Winsor & Newton Cotman paint. This is a student grade paint, and student grade means that it is for practicing, but it has a very fine quality. It is not as bright and intense as the artist grade paints, and but this is really good. My intention is to eventually start using the artist grade, but I won't do that until these tubes are empty. Cadmium yellow pale hue. If I am correct, then Cotman has 48 colors. I have only 21 here, but you know, it is very easy to mix your own colors. Cadmium yellow hue. It's a little darker, a little more orange. I love earth tones, like this yellow ochre. Yellow ochre. It says AA, that means that it is very light fast. And I have to say, these Cotman's paints are pretty light fast, because I have made some paintings, portraits of my niece and nephews, and they have been hanging on the wall at my parents' home for a couple of years now, and they are still looking very good. This is raw sienna. This is a larger tube. Look, it's sometimes so hard to open it that I take a bite. I put this between my teeth and then give it a good so This is another large one, raw umber. Impossible to open. So I had to use my jaw, my teeth. Here's a little one again, burnt umber. Now, as you can see, I'm not putting a lot of paint in it. And really that isn't necessary, because you really don't need that much watercolor. This is black, ivory black. This is one of the colors I love most, burnt sienna. It is somewhere in between brown and red. It's a beautiful, rich color. Alizarin crimson hue. The word hue means that they didn't use the original pigment, and they changed the pigment because they want the Cotman series to be as affordable as possible. So for some expensive pigments they found a good alternative. Cadmium, red, pale hue, same story. Permanent rose. Now these how do you call it? These sections are larger than the ones over here. So I think eventually I will put colors in here that I will use very often. But at this point, you know, I do not have that much experience with a watercolor. So let's just see what happens. I'm now just going with the flow. Dioxazine violets. So as you can see, I am following some sort of color wheel. Prussian blue. Prussian blue. That is one of my favorite colors. When it comes to my watercolor set, I like Prussian blue in colored pencil as well. But and this is ultramarine. And this is cobalt blue hue. So this is not a real cobalt. And this is a tricky paint, because this paint doesn't behave like the others that I have. This particular color is much more opaque, and that can have consequences for the painting. Cerulean blue hue. a beautiful light blue color that I recently used for painting sky. Green, Viridian Hue. It's a beautiful color, green, this Viridian Hue. This is one I use most, Sap Green. It is an earthy green tone, very versatile. And the last color that I have is this one, Emerald. So this is my palette. And now let's see how this palette works if we start painting. So I'm settled. I have 2 jars of water, 3 brushes that I use most of the time, a tissue, I really need that, my fresh new palette, and the page I'm going to paint. So let's start this journey in Painterly Days. I am using first this brush. I bought it at Harold's, that is a art supply store in Rotterdam. I'm wetting my brush and then I'm just picking, I'll show you. So my brush is wet and now I'm picking a little bit of sap green. I'm just dabbing it into the brush and then putting it over here. Now just as like with colored pencil, I like using starting light and then build my colors. So I will clean my brush. The first jar is for cleaning and then the second jar is for picking up fresh clean water. Now I would like to pick up a little bit of yellow and just that is a fine bright green color. You stay there. Now I'm picking another brush. This is the most expensive one that I have, Da Vinci Finest Red Sable. It was extremely expensive to me, but it has huge quality, and the quality is in the hairs. This brush can take up so much water and so much paint. So, but I'm not using it very often because I happen to love, I like flat brushes more. Works better for me at this point. Could be that when my experience, that when I learn more about painting, that will change. So here's the brush I already prepared. I'm just putting globs of color in. Now because I wet the paper a little bit, I can mix colors on the paper. So I will do that now. I'm cleaning my brush again. You can't see it, but you can hear it. Then I will pick up a little bit of fresh water. And I am going to add a little bit of brown. I believe it is the burnt umber. A little bit. Look. Now this paper is, if you see the paper, you do not immediately think that this would work for watercolor. It is a very it is a paper with very little texture. Let's add some more. But it is said that if you are a little bit used to this paper, then it will work very well. So let's give it a try. And this is a great way to practice. It saves me a lot of time because I don't have to make my own sketches. This is what I like about this brush, that little point. At this point I have 2 jars of water, but I don't always use 2 jars. Sometimes I only use 1. Depends on how much room I have. This is my other favorite pencil. It is called a cat's tongue and works for me pretty well too. I'm now going to add a little bit of color to these berries. I'm going to wet them first, just a little bit of water. Now this is a dangerous part because this leaf hasn't dried yet, so I need to be careful. And I am going for the alizarin crimson hue. I picked some paint and I'm just going to now, if I would have wanted to make highlights on these berries, then I should have used masking fluid. I do use that, but well, let's see what happens. Maybe I can make some sort of highlights without the masking fluids. So you always work from light to dark with watercolor paint. I do sometimes use other mediums like pastels, and then you can add lighter pastels on top of darker watercolor areas. That is, well, maybe you like that. So this is how I paint. Let's do a little close-up again with the alizarin crimson hue. And now I do not add water first, so now you can see the difference. If I add this color immediately on the paper, it looks like this. So here you can see the difference. This is like wet in wet technique. So first wettening the paper and then letting the paint flow freely into the water. And here I didn't do that. I cleansed my pencil and added fresh water to it. So now I'm going to add water here, and then let's see if we can change the look a little bit. Because I like that look of free flowing paint. Let's add a little bit of more paint. Look at that. For me, painting gives me the same joy as colored pencils or pastels. It's just every stroke that I put on paper is sheer joy. I really like this. And you can only discover the effects of what paint or colored pencil or any other medium does when you just start doing it. And I think these coloring books are a blessing, because it is so easy now to start. Just pick up your brushes and just give it a go. Now I feel these leaves need a little bit more green. So I picked up a clean water on my brush and I'm just dabbing that here and there on the leaves. My voice is a bit strange because one of my very lovely nephews was having a cold, and now I am having that cold too. It's not that bad, but my voice my singing voice is not affected, not very much, so that's okay. I can teach. I'm happy. Look, just adding a touch of green here and there, and really it is such a little amount of paint that you need for this way of painting. So when I go on vacation, I want to take my watercolor with me, I don't think that I will need to take my tubes with me. All I have to do is to put that paint on my palette, and I can just paint for weeks and weeks, I think. And I don't think I will be painting endless. We love hiking in the mountains and swimming, doing some sightseeing. So I'm pretty sure that with the well-loaded palettes I am okay. Now what happens if I add a little bit of shading? And I am now looking for the right color. Because I don't have that much experience yet, it is sometimes a bit hard to find out the right color combinations. But you know, with practice this will come. So this is Prussian blue with alizarin crimson. I used the alizarin crimson on the berries. And with this little bit of Prussian blue, and there is a touch of ultramarine in it. I think this may be a dark purple grayish color for the shading. So let's see, what is this here? A raspberry? Maybe it's a raspberry. Or are they darker? You know, that is something, all those names of those berries, that is I don't know them by heart. I'm doing the same strategy as earlier, putting on the color and then adding a little bit more water and fading. Let's use it on this one too. Now this raspberry looks pretty different. But this is a practice page, so you can test things. Things are allowed to look different. Really, before I started painting in this book and the other watercolor book that I received, I was very skeptical whether it would be possible to properly paint on this type of paper. But it is such a good practice, and I believe that if I get used to this paper, when I get used to this paper, I can make pretty nice paintings in this book. So I'm now going to clean my brush, and then let's see what happens if we fade the shadows. So I cleansed the brush, and there is a tiny bit of water in it. So let's now see what happens if I add that. I think I need a little bit more water. I don't know that for sure, but let's just give it a go. I will post a blog post on my website about this book. If you want to purchase it, you can do that via my website. My camera is is a bit well, I'm sorry. Let's add some water to these berries as well. Now my brush already has become a little smudgy because while adding water to these berries, it also picks up paint. So I think I need to clean it. I cleansed it, I cleaned it, and now fresh water. I think this berry can use a little bit more alizarin crimson, that is that red, the reddish color. So I might add a little bit of that. But first let's see what this mixture of this shadow color is doing. So now what if these berries cast a shadow on this leaf? Maybe they do. I'm using exactly the same shadow color, so it is the Prussian blue and the alizarin crimson, and there is a touch of ultramarine, but that is not that much. So I picked up a little bit more crimson alizarin to add a little bit more color to these berries. Now the paper is still white, so the color moves freely, and that free flowing causes happy accidents. And these happy accidents are so much fun. I cleaned my brush and now I'm smoothing things out a little bit. So let's take a step back. Now I used two different techniques for the berries. And in this case, I like the left one, this one, more. But I cannot say for sure because this paint needs to dry. And dried paint shows different than wet paint. So we'll see. So while the berries are drying, I picked up my fourth brush, Pure Sable. This is a very, very tiny one. And I use that for details, and I am going to use it for adding details to the leaves. I am using that same mixture of alizarin and what was it? Prussian blue, but I'm going to add a little bit of sap green because I want it to fit the leaves a little bit more. So let's see what this will do. A little bit more water so that it will flow. So you can see you do not need 120 colors when it comes to painting. You can make them yourself. So here we go. Just adding a touch of shadow here and there. I have to say, I am in the learning process. So, and that is really clear because one day my paintings work beautifully and the other day I'm making all a mess of it. But that is part of the learning process. Oh, that is a strong color. Now you can use the watercolor paint very precisely, like you are coloring and drawing, but you can also use it in a very loose, free way, and it really depends upon your personal style. My hand will tell me what works best for me. Picked up a little bit more water, so just adding water. A little bit more water. So this is what I've painted so far, and maybe you have noticed that my way of painting is maybe a little bit slow, just like my way of coloring, but this is my pace, and it is so joyful, such a joy. Well, this was my second painting session in this beautiful book, Painterly Days, and I think I will take this book with me on vacation and do a lot of painting. I will put a link in the description of this video to my blog, and there you will find more information about this gorgeous little book. Well, it is not little, it is a beautiful book by Christy Rice. She has her own website, The Watercoloring Book, American spelling, coloring, twice an O, not O-U. But I will put all that information in the blog, and I can really recommend this. It is such a joy. And I can recommend the Reeves painting palette as well. Let's show it again. Look at this. This is my new friend. Glorious. Okay, I wish you a lot of happy coloring, painting, whatever. And see you next time. Bye bye.